Hello and welcome to Queer New Worlds, where we take a look at popular sci-fi through queer eyes. I'm JJ, your host, your non-binary navigator, and lifelong sci-fi fan who always felt a little bit alien. Today's segment is the Queel, where we spin a wheel of the top 100 sci-fi movies as ranked by Time Out magazine, and then do an in-depth analysis to see just how queer these movies are. As well as a way to decode the subtext in popular entertainment, it's also an excuse for me to just watch more sci-fi. Last week, the Queel selected Iron Man, so this week I'm asking, how queer is the movie Iron Man from 2008? I'm sure many of you have seen Iron Man before or read the original comics, so I'll keep the plot summary brief. The most interesting thing about it is that it's where the Marvel Cinematic Universe began. Tony Stark is a millionaire playboy and tech geek who has inherited his father's weapons company. After one of his own missiles injures him, he's captured by a terrorist group, and a friend fits him with an electromagnet to keep the shrapnel away from his heart. He escapes, decides he doesn't want to do weapons anymore, and turns his boredom into creating a superhero suit and saving people. Cue big bad organisation that gets wind of this, tries to steal the tech, and then the agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. come knocking to recruit him to the Avengers. That's basically it. As a sci-fi movie, it's very light on the actual sci-fi. I mean, yes, there's a suit with amazing powers and a focus on tech, but the science is pretty hand-wavy, and it's more there for cool points and flashy action than actual innovation. Though the sleekness of the Iron Man suit as it telescopically slides into place like the scales of an armadillo is extremely satisfying, I agree. There's definitely a suspension of belief required for Iron Man though, as the suit seems to have infinite propulsion, not a gas tank or battery pack in sight, and the way the enemy manages to reverse engineer what's left of the mangled prototype into a tank of a suit so quickly is definitely not a very realistic plot point. The most interesting bit is the concept of the electromagnet that is plumbed into Tony Stark's body. It's his Achilles heel, the weak spot, because every good superhero has to have a kryptonite. And the fact he has to charge it and upgrade it is realistic. Jarvis, as his personal electronic assistant, is a neat character, the disembodied voice resembling the computer from Star Trek, as he appears to be part of the very fabric of the building, able to converse with Tony in any room and manipulate everything from doors to shutters, lighting, music, temperature, and even assistant robots. So in terms of sci-fi, not that impressive. I think other movies in the Marvel Universe are more interesting and also more entertaining than Iron Man, but we'll come to the rating later. The main question for today is, how queer is Iron Man as a movie? And it will surprise nobody that my assessment is not very. So let's get into it. And first up, Tony Stark is presented as hyper-masculine. At the beginning of the movie, he won't even speak to women before another man validates their attractiveness to him, and his personal assistant Pepper Potts, with whom there's a clear romantic tension bubbling under the surface, is just given menial tasks like picking up his dry cleaning and showing the door to the hookups he sleeps with and then discards. Women are decorative and disposable to Tony. They're not his equals, and they're not really objects of desire either. His main desire is for public attention and fame, and he already has quite a bit of that. As befits a hyper-masculine character with way too much money and way too much free time, he's shown gambling, drinking, and living a bachelor lifestyle in a luxurious pad. It's clear that Tony isn't intended to be a likeable character off the bat. However, the movie never really overtly criticises or punishes him for his excesses. Instead, he uses his money and intelligence to escape situations and continue his preferred lifestyle. I don't think his masculinity is ever meaningfully questioned or challenged. It's presented as pretty aspirational, even despite his misogyny and arrogance. A queer angle here would be to look at this display of over-exaggerated bravado and self-importance as an example of fragile masculinity and the insecurities he feels, but it's not evident that there are any, and the movie certainly doesn't ask us to dwell on this. After Tony gets injured and fitted with the electromagnet, there could be an interesting focus on how this affects or changes his masculinity, and there is an initial shift to vulnerability, particularly in his scene with Pepper as she replaces the unit. This is fleeting though, and his body modification is shown as a temporary weakness that he overcomes, and he becomes more powerful because and in spite of it, rather than it being a meaningful part of his identity. There could be a much more interesting examination of the interplay between technology and body here, but the movie steers well clear of any meaningful critique and instead focuses on the electromagnet as simply a mechanism to restore him back to full health, and in fact makes him even more powerful. It's more spectacle than a real kryptonite, at least in this movie. Next, there's the relationship with Pepper, and although the movie does a not so subtle job of teeing up a future romantic arc between the two of them, what's more interesting is the relationships he has with other men. These are very carefully constructed to eliminate any sniff of homoeroticism, and Tony is presented as the ultimate straight male. Jarvis could have been one of those gay butlers we've talked about before, think the campness of C-3PO and Crichton, as he provides Tony with emotional support, reassurance, and constant companionship. In being integrated in every part of Tony's house, he's integrated in every part of Tony's life, more so than Pepper, from whom Tony still has some privacy and distance. Jarvis is non-threatening as a disembodied voice. There's never any hint of desire, and there's even less opportunity for anyone to act on it since he has no physical body. Interestingly, although Tony views women as disposable and useful for his needs, he's chosen a male as his house assistant in choosing Jarvis. So there is some queer coding there, but the movie only has the barest suggestion of it than turning it into something meaningful. Finally, we have Pepper as the foil for Tony. She is evidence of his straightness and masculinity as she supports him emotionally and physically, reinforcing heterosexual stereotypes rather than functioning as an autonomous person in her own right. Tony has Pepper carry out tasks for him, such as hacking into the database and overloading the reactor whilst he fights off the bad guys. Gwyneth Paltrow, who plays Pepper Potts, has stated that the director wanted their relationship to be reminiscent of a 1940s comedy. Certainly, it does seem stuck there. Tony says jump, and Pepper scurries about obediently to do his bidding, even despite her obvious discomfort with his flings. She tells one that I do anything and everything Mr. Stark requires, including occasionally taking out the trash, implying that that is how she views them. The movie never really allows ambiguity in any character's identity. Instead, it rushes to reassert conventions and gender norms. Characters' behaviour follows stereotypes of femininity and masculinity, even when unpalatable to themselves and to others around them. Although Tony's hypermasculinity and treatment of women is not set up to be glorified, the absence of any actual criticism or consequences doesn't really invite a different perspective either. It's far too safe and far too quick to say just how straight and male Tony is. So, no, it's not a queer movie. Any subtext is so small and vague as to be inconsequential, and actually, the movie is interesting for its total absence of queerness. It's almost like it's tried its very best to remove any trace. This is a real contrast to other movies in the same franchise which do play around with gender stereotypes and sexuality. But Iron Man is exactly that, a cold, immovable block of metal in the shape of a man. When the Queel picked Iron Man, I said it was probably bottom third of the list in terms of queerness, and I think it's actually even less than that, maybe the last 10 movies. In terms of quality, Time Out magazine rated Iron Man 70th place in its list of the top 100 sci-fi movies. Personally, I think that's generous. Iron Man doesn't really have a whole lot of sci-fi in it, and I find the focus on Tony's excess and the limited character development pretty uninteresting. It's very much style over substance here, so if you just want some action and fancy tech, then I can see the appeal, but personally I want more from my movies. I want a story that makes me think, and I want characters that are well-rounded or at least experience some kind of growth. Tony starts and ends as basically the same person, and his relentless reinforcement of his straightness and his masculinity is pretty tedious. As a queer person, I find the repeated signalling of no queer here bordering on homophobic, and the treatment of women is also quite problematic in my opinion. Don't come at me saying that Pepper Potts is a strong female character because she literally isn't. The most empowered thing she does is tell Tony he's peed in his suit and she isn't going to enable his path to self-destruction, but that's hardly revolutionary feminism. Really, all this movie has going for it, for me, is the Hollywood budget for special effects, music, and star power, and yeah, they're all fine, I guess. The suit is the best bit about it, as I said, otherwise it's a fairly average blockbuster. And so, for that reason, my rating is 90 out of 100 in terms of the top 100 sci-fi movies from Time Out. I'm fairly sure there are worse movies in the list, but I'm reasonably confident there are many more better ones, including some of the ones that Time Out ranked behind Iron Man. So yeah, 20 places worse than Time Out. I'd say sorry, but I'm not. And with that, here's the updated table of my rankings. Let's spin the Queel to see which movie I'll be looking at through queer eyes next. There are 96 movies remaining, so still plenty of ones I haven't seen yet. And the Queel has chosen Annihilation from 2018, a movie I have seen, although only once. I can only vaguely remember it, so I will really appreciate a rewatch. It was written and directed by Alex Garland, who also wrote Ex Machina, and it is the third movie I've seen of his, but I have to say, all of them left me feeling a bit unsatisfied, so sorry, Alex. Annihilation was ranked 98 in Time Out's list, which is pretty damning, and instinctively I would say it's better than Iron Man, so I probably wouldn't rank it 28 places lower, and seriously, what were they on when they ranked Iron Man? But there are plenty of better movies too. So let's take a look at what they said about Annihilation. A sci-fi horror hybrid with more grey matter than your average movie, Annihilation has grand concepts in mind, ideas about self-destruction and rebirth, and the film might borrow some tricks from out of the Ridley Scott playbook, but this is a visually rapturous and sometimes unsettling movie. I do remember it being quite unsettling rather than scary or really frightening. I also remember feeling it could have said more than it did. Both of those might be reasons they ranked it so low in the list. We like a resolution in our stories, or at least stories with something to say or to think about. It will be interesting to watch it again and see how it stacks up, but also to take a look at it through a queer lens to pick up any subtext or queer coding, so look out for that in a future episode. And if you enjoyed this, don't forget to like and subscribe to be notified of future episodes. I'll be sharing all the clips on both YouTube and Spotify so you can listen or watch as you prefer. And if you have ideas or questions for me, or maybe just some opinions on what I've been talking about, you can send me an email at queernewworldspod@gmail.com, drop a comment below, or contact me on socials at queernewworlds on Blue Sky, Instagram and Twitter. And until next time, live long and fabulous.